Welcome to the Visual Studio 2012 Editing Environment, or IDE. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. This is the tool we're going to use to write our C# code in. And we can use it to create standard Windows programs, Xbox programs, or console programs, whatever we'd like. What we're going to do today and look in this module is to go through what the interface is and how to actually navigate around it. The first thing your eye is drawn to is this big white box in the center. This white box represents our design view. The reason why it's called design view is because we actually get to design the layout and look of our window. A window is also called a form. And so we can add buttons, drop downs, text boxes, whatever we want at this point. In order to work with this stuff outside of the design view, we can go over here to the Solution Explorer. The Solution Explorer is just a fancy way of saying our project, all the files that are involved in our project. The main two that we care about are form1.cs and program.cs. For now, in a standard Windows form program is the form1.cs. The program.cs simply tells form1 to start running. Form1 is where we're going to manipulate our code. So to change to our actual code view from our design view, all we have to do is have it selected and go up to the top right here and hit the View Code button. Now we can actually edit the code for our form. You'll also notice that a second tab opened up here at the top of the design/code view, and this allows us to quickly go back and forth should we choose to. Or if we're in the code view, if we were in the code view and we want to go back to the design view and this tab isn't there for some reason, we could just go over back to the Solution Explorer and double click on it, and it'll go back to the design view all on its own. Notice that when you click on a file inside of the Solution Explorer, down here, things start to modify. This is our Properties panel. The Properties panel simply shows all the properties for whatever given item is selected at that time. Right now, the Form1 file is selected. And really the only thing I'll ever change in here is the name of the file. We'll get into that later on. However, if I start to select things over in the designer, I get a whole slew of properties that I can modify. And the cool thing about these properties is that they're actually common amongst all the different, or many of the different types of items that we can add to our form, like buttons and checkboxes and whatnot. So for example, the text property for the form1 currently has the value form1. If I manipulate this and change it to my program, what will happen is up in the title bar of the form, that will also be changed. Like as I said before, most items that we add to our program have similar properties, text being one of them. So if I change the text of a button, it would actually change the text of whatever's shown on top of that button. Over to the left here, we see, well, how do we actually manipulate this design? How do we add things to it? Well, we use the toolbox. The toolbox has a whole bunch of different items that we can add. Right now I'm under the common controls because these are the ones that we're normally going to use. So we see things like checkboxes and text boxes and whatnot. How do we actually add these to our form? Well, two methods. We can either drag it over, so I have a text box here, I can drag it over and I can move it, manipulate it, change the size and whatever I want. And when I have it selected, the property panel will always update itself. And the other way that I can add a different item is to actually just double click on it. So if I double click on button, I'll see that the button was added just on top there. And again, I can manipulate and change the size or whatever it is I would like to do. Or I can actually go to the code for it, but we're not going to do that right this second. Finally, what I'd like to show you is the menus up at the top. And really, you're not going to do too much with the main Windows menu other than create a new project under the File menu. Under the File menu, if I could properly select it. Open project and whatnot. We'll get to that later on. But the main thing down here, there's three things that you're going to look at is the save. That'll save the current file you're on, or quick key is Control S. Or you can save all the files that you currently have in your project, which is a better option because you might have missed one somewhere. Control Shift S for a shortcut. And then finally, Start. This will actually execute your program. Click this button to get her all going. And that is Visual Studio 2012.